Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Rooster AM. It's Ryan Nelson. Today we have a special guest. I'm not the only pastor in town that plays music or vice versa. There are others out there just like me, and his name is Sheldon Tucker. He is not anything new to me. I've known about him for a long time. I've heard college stories about him from my mother. Apparently they went to college. There was no apparent. They went to college together. I have pictures to prove it. Sheldon, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. It's good to be here. I do appreciate it.
So growing up, you grew up in Idaho,
Idaho, that's right.
and that's the environment that shaped you.
Very definitely. Beautiful, beautiful state. A lot of time I spent with my twin brother up in the mountains and my family. We went camping every other weekend, it seems. So it was, I loved that part of it. I grew up in the Nazarene church. We had a thriving church. There were 6 Nazarene churches in Nampa, where I was from. There were 6 Mormon wards there too. So we kind of had an interesting vibe. My mom always said, "Don't ever go out with an LDS or a Mormon girl," and so I had to do it a couple times just because she said that. But
There you go.
no, we got along great. But it's a great place. I left out of high school and never went back, other than to meet or visit my folks and my sister and my twin brother.
So how did for let's talk about the musical journey. How did it shape your music? Did it at all? Was it there? Or
Oh,
was it there?
oh yeah, definitely. I sang. I was in, of course, in choir in high school, as well as I sang in choir in the church since I was in 7th grade in the adult choir. My twin brother and my sister we all were a part of the choir, and it was a good choir. It wasn't just a hodgepodge of people, and um, I remember how God spoke to me through music as well, and that was one of my favorite things in life. Was just feeling that, and still today, it's music. God speaks to me better, more thoroughly through music and the words uh, that people like you put together.
It's the gift of music. The ministry through music
Oh,
really affects
definitely.
the heart.
Yeah, very definitely. And uh, being growing up that way, and then graduating, going to college. Of course, I had been in groups, and I sang in the gospel quartet that I put together in high school, and we did lots of different songs, including "Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini." But we did, but gospel was what we were based on even then, and then going to college, and of course in the early 70s when I started college, gospel quartet music was not in, and group singing was in, and so I was in group that, in fact, I was in group with your mother, and we traveled around for the college. It was a group called Sweet Spirit, but it was group singing. It was not.
So you're talking about my mom. Now she portrays herself as the squeaky clean, perfect young lady growing up, and I just know, man, she's gonna kill me, but I'm okay with it. That's what I do. So I grew up in my family. My brother's really smart. Did a lot of the right thing. My sister was really smart. I was kind of the one that didn't really care about school, was a little bit of a rebel. You don't see that in my dad at all. My dad is about the most calm, gentle. But then you look at my mom, and I know she has a little bit of fire in her, but she plays that she had none. Is it true? Is she really that good all the time?
Well, I'll tell you what. I could tell you some stories. I don't know if I should, but no, she was great, and she has that fire, and she was fun to be with. She was one of, we were in a group and traveled around together, and
She told me a story about throwing up on a bus. One of her
yes,
friends threw up Pepto Bismol all over the side of the bus,
yes,
and
that's right. I
yeah.
remember that very well, and a lot of things like that. She was a beautiful girl, and a lot of fun to be with.
She'll be happy to hear that. I got a picture of you guys in a yearbook.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got it. I got it here. I'll show you. I don't know
Uh
if you
oh.
remember it. I won't. I'll post it up here when people are watching online. But yeah, I believe that's you. Is that you?
Oh, that is me, and that's her.
And they're hanging out.
Yeah.
Did you see this one?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's part of a whole picture of our group.
Yeah, I just zoomed in
I
because,
saw that.
but no, that's pretty cool.
Could you see my shoes in that? I really like my shoes. They were two tone,
Tone shoes.
brown and cream.
That was back in the 70s.
Yes, I know.
You guys were at a Friends University, is that correct?
No, Friends Bible College.
Friends Bible College. Yeah.
It's now known as Barclay College.
Yeah, named after like my great great grandpa.
William
Copics. Well, mine was Copic.
Yeah, Copics. The
Yeah.
Copic, the
Calvin Copic.
main building
Yeah.
in the college was Copic.
Yeah. No, so you grew up. So you probably knew my grandparents.
Yes, I did.
They're good people.
Pretty well.
What do you think about them? See, when I wrote Enid, most people don't realize that the grandma and grandpa I was referring to were my grandma and grandpa Whitney there in Haviland.
I was going to say the Whitneys are the ones I know, and they were good people, good, strong, solid people. And I came from Idaho, didn't know anybody but my aunt and uncle who lived there. My dad was from Haviland. He was born, raised in Haviland, and but my uncle H.B. Scott was a rancher there for many years, and then he became undersheriff, and then he was judge in Greensburg. So and calf roping champion of Kansas at one time. So
Wow.
I got to go out and rope cattle from the back of a horse a few times with him, and really enjoyed that.
So you probably know my uncle Kurt too.
Oh yes,
Open, you know. Oh, there you go.
yeah. Oh, there's a lot of Whitneys that I know.
It's a small world, like it really is. Like and you came on my radar because you were on Facebook, and I remember you singing about 10 years ago here in Enid at a church, and you're singing gospel music. And I think my mom came in, I think sang a song maybe with you. I mean, it's been a while. And I remember when we left, my mom said, well, he played in Branson. Like he's just not a gospel singer. I mean, he can do it all.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? And she was like, yeah. And I said, and I remembered that when I asked her, I said, hey, remember that guy you said that could do it all? She's like, yeah. I think I'm gonna have him on the show because I was looking you up, and she was like, you should. She goes, he sounds just like Dean Martin.
Oh wow.
You know, so
Everybody.
yeah, so
Something like that.
brought you to Brand. Like, was Branson just a dream of yours, or
Well,
or did life just
what
put you
really,
there?
yeah, what really began is I began traveling with gospel quartets, and even though I lived here in Enid and worked here in Enid, we had a quartet that traveled around the state called the Foundations, and I loved that. I wasn't raised with Southern gospel necessarily because out in the Northwest you didn't have the gospel quartets that you have all over the South, and so I mean I loved different groups that I heard that I really liked, and loved that kind of music, but I didn't know a lot of. We had the Blackwoods come through Nampa when I was 10 or 12, and went down and there was a high school not too far that we went to just like 3 blocks from my house where we went and listened to them, and I loved that kind of music. Never heard it really before, so I kind of fell in love with that. And when I got to college, I was disappointed because it was more group singing, as I said. But I had a chance to, you know, when I lived in Western Kansas, I started a quartet, and we traveled around there when I was pastoring in Western Kansas. And then when I came down to the Enid area, and I came down to Oklahoma as a pastor, and then the Lord, I just got out of pastoring for a while and had an Allstate insurance office here in Enid for several years. But and I was in this quartet, the Foundations, and we traveled around. In that, one of the guys in that quartet had some ties to the Blackwood brothers, and who were doing a show in Branson, and so he ended up getting a gig with them, and so he was moving to Branson, and then when he got there, the bass singer for the Blackwoods for 20 some years, and had his own show in Vegas for a while, and you know, not on the main strip, but anyway, Denny Erie was his name. Wonderful bass singer. They began a show, and they wanted me to come out and sing with it as a part of that show. Well, here I was in Enid, and I was selling insurance, and I thought, you know, I want to do that. And so we sold the office and took that money and allowed us to spend 2 or 3 years of pushing the show and getting the show together, and went there, and I was full time in the gospel and in singing, and it wasn't all gospel. I ended up doing stand up comedy for several years because I was the one who could do the comedy in the group. And
You were like the June Carter.
I, yeah, I was in a sense, maybe more like, the what, who was it that did the howdy?
What was his name?
What's her name? Anyway,
Yeah, okay.
anyway, I should know it, but I'm getting old and I forget things. Uh, but anyway, I enjoyed that. I'd go out and in our show that we did on the road, I would go out and do 20 minutes of comedy, warm people up. So I got really used to that and enjoyed that. I would find out where people were from and do all kinds of stuff. It's probably the most fun I've ever had in my life.
Really?
And we'd go do shows on the road during the winter time. And there was one February, I remember we had a show every single night of February except one.
Wow. I
Anyway,
normally tell people, turn your phones off. Don't be that guy. I'm the guy right now.
I loved it during the show when people's phone would go off because I'd jump off the stage, run out there, and I'd grab it from them, and I'd start talking to whoever it was on my microphone right there. So it was a lot of fun, and the crowd loved it. And of course, the person you take the phone from, they can't say no.
Right.
You just grab it.
When it happens in church.
Yeah.
Like you just, well, what do you do in church when the thing goes off? You let it go, don't you?
No, I don't. I don't ever let it go. We have fun. I've always had fun.
I'm like, Eleanor, really? You didn't turn your phone off, did
That's
you?
right.
Everybody, Eleanor's doing everything she can right now
That's
to
right.
hide the fact that it's her phone, but I see everything from up here. That is funny, though, when you're pastoring, how people don't realize that you literally see everything.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
They don't realize it, though. It's like they don't think you see them, but you do.
That's true.
And the reactions sometimes we'll be talking about something and you'll see them turn and look at their wife.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I know what's going on in that house. No, I'm just kidding.
Just their reaction to you sometimes.
Yeah.
You can see, you can see the Lord's dealing with them.
So you started off pastoring, then you went to Branson, then you
That's
went back to pastoring, right?
Well, it's all the time I was in Branson doing the work. I was working in the Nazarene church there too.
Yeah, the truth is, this is something I've learned, and I think I was misspeaking just now. You don't ever become a pastor. Pastoring is a verb.
That's right.
It's an act of service. It's not a noun. So I guess leader of a church, then you went, but you're always pastoring because guys.
Ministry is ministry.
Yeah, I mean, even today at lunch, you were sharing things with me, and I was like, wow, pastors need pastors.
That's right.
They really do.
That's right.
And you gave me some very good, wise advice. Thank you for that. When you're in Branson, what was the craziest show you ever done?
Well, it actually was on the road, if you want to know the craziest thing. And I did comedy. I loved it. And I loved being down in the South, But down there, we had people from all over, all over the North and all over came down there to retirement villages and stuff, or just for the winter. And we had a show, a lot of people. And I was doing comedy. And within the show, and when you do 20 minutes beforehand, then you refer back to that through the show at times, and that's what really gets laughs because people remember. You talk to any comic,
The callback.
You talk to Nate Bargatze right now, he'll tell you the exact same thing. And so that was always something I loved doing, I enjoy doing, and you have to stay in character when you're in comedy, because if you ever let go, then you'll never get them, and nobody might be coming, they're not really laughing, nothing on it until you finally you get them, and then it's wonderful. And then you do the callback, and then they just. So we were in the middle of that, in the middle of the show, and people are laughing so hard, and this guy just collapses in the main aisle, not too far from the stage, just falls right there. Well, I'm in the middle of comedy. What do I do? Yeah. Obviously we all stopped. And
did you say I'm killing it? like you said, never mind. No, go ahead.
That's right. Anyway, I went down there, and everybody went down. Everybody came down close, and we had to stop. And everybody's wondering. And of course, it takes 35 minutes for the EMTs to get there.
Like legit. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, he was out. He was passed out, and so nobody knew why. And by the time he did recover somewhat, he didn't know what happened. But then they've already called the ambulance, and so they get there and they get him. By the time they take it away, it's been 40 minutes. well, you can't begin the show again. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we did do a little bit, just a little bit in closing, and it was just a disaster as far as the CD sales and that sort of thing.
Oh my goodness.
But I did get the reputation around the valley that guy laughed so hard he basically just cut off the oxygen from his brain and passed out.
Is that really what happened?
That's what happened.
Oh my goodness.
So that was worth it to me, I guess, for that. I was glad he was all right.
Your street cred just went out the roof. It's like,
Well, it was fun after the fact, after we found out he was fine. But that's probably the craziest thing. I could give you a whole bunch of other things, but
was there any times when you were in Branson where you felt like God showed up in unexpected ways?
oh, definitely. You know,
And the guy falling down and finding out that it wasn't a heart attack. I mean, that, like, thank you, Lord, because then you'd be known as the guy that killed people.
that's
you know,
right.
like,
And I didn't want that.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And there's a fine line there. You could go either way. But there's lots of times things worked out here and there where we just said, Lord, how's this going to happen? You know, when my wife's sitting over here, Joseel is her name, and just we would get to a point where we didn't know how that this was going to happen. We just said, Lord, you know, what is it we need to learn through this? What is it? How is this going to happen? And we would just put it in His hands. He already knew. He already had a way to get through that, and we just marveled at the way, as we look back, we we can see how He worked in ways we never would have imagined.
wow.
But I loved it.
So there's this fine line, and I know this about myself. I've learned a lot about myself, and you have a few years on me. You probably got a couple.
At least a couple.
I mean, I got with my mom, so like, okay. So, but I've realized there's a fine line between pastoring and performance.
There it is.
You know, and you gotta balance that because you want to keep people's attention, but you don't want to be fake.
That's true.
You want to be led by the Spirit, but you don't want to be lame.
That's true. That's exactly.
How do you balance that?
You know, obviously, you know, I do a first person message on somebody who was in the palace where Esther was, and so I tell the whole story about it from a non Hebrew standpoint. And the very end of it, I said, well, those Jews sure are lucky people, because I told the whole story and how everything worked out and how God does that. And because I'm in character and trying to do that, my wife always accused me that Tucker would jump out in that, because my Tucker persona was in Branson, that's what I was known as, Tucker. And so I was this big cowboy. Just think Jethro Bodine.
Oh, from the show?
From
Hee Haw?
No, Hillbillies. Beverly Hillbillies. You think of him as a cowboy, and that's kind of my character that I did, although I wasn't quite as dumb as he was. But that's what I portrayed. And so sometimes that voice and that, after years of doing that, would come out in my...
Yeah, and you're not doing it on purpose. It just kind of just happens.
It just happened. So the way I tried, you know, I've always felt it's been easy for me to cry, and I didn't ever like that. When I would talk about the Lord and I'm talking about how He shares with me, and so I got to a point where I just said, Lord, I can't do anything about this. It's just going to happen. I'm going to cry, because I couldn't do anything to stop it, and I just allowed that. The Lord just said, be yourself.
Be yourself.
And because that's who I created. And I'm going to cry right now.
Yeah. It's the Lord squeezing your heart.
That's right. Because of that, I felt, you know, that's God. I prayed every Sunday, as I pray today, that people would see Him through me and who I am. And that way I never really had much over the performance part of it. I tell stories sometimes in my pastoral ministry that were stories that I hinted on stage in Branson, but I always let them know that is what it is. I never tried to be something I wasn't.
Yeah, that's the key. I think a lot of times, and the reason, like we were talking about it, like the Judas song,
Oh yeah.
is that too many times pastors,
Mm-hmm.
when I talk about performance, me and you are thinking stage performing, right?
Right.
But that's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the performance where a pastor says, look how good I am. I don't make mistakes. I am this, I am that. They act like they are better than everyone else. You don't perform. Like you just said,
Yeah.
that's why you're easily to tears. You know what God's done for you.
That's right.
And for me, what I learned, uh, every time I would ever give a message, I would open it up by saying, I am no better than anyone in this room. We are all equally worthless at the foot of the cross. And
Yeah.
I would set the standard so low for me because I know the truth.
Yeah.
And when you look through the Bible, you said it today when we were reading, you said, and I followed it up, you were like, well, look through the Bible. Like, it's pretty obvious that everybody that God uses, somehow, some of the kings, all of them, they screw it up. That's the point. And then that's why, that's when I made the comment. What did they expect? How did they not see this coming? And once you can face the reality that we are all sinners saved by grace alone.
That's right.
And not by our own doing. You start to look at yourself and say, what Charles Spurgeon said, all right, I'm glad that they believed that lie, because if they knew the truth, it'd be worse.
That's right. J.I. Packer, in a big thick book called Knowing God.
Yeah,
I read it years and years ago, and I was grew up Nazarene, so I was Wesleyan in my theology. J.I. Packer is
very Calvinist.
Very Calvinist.
Yeah.
But I was reading anyway. I mean, I loved it. Anyway, but what he said, something he said in there, and this was 40 years ago, 45, 50 years ago that I read it the first time. And he said that one of the greatest things is that God knew who I was going to be. He created me. He knew everything about me. He knew what I was going to do. And even now, he knows what I'm going to do and that I'm going to fall. And yet he still chose to love me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
He chose me to love me, to die on the cross for me, even though he already knew all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And that has to do with not only my past, but my future.
And he loved you in the womb.
That's right. Before time began.
Yeah.
I tell people.
So you are a Calvinist. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. But yeah.
Well, I'm somewhere in between if you want to get to know.
Well, yeah, and that was when I was telling you about my whole, when you finally get to the point that where they say, well, because I know the argument, and I got so many pastors who watch, they're going to just hit me up on the comments right now. I know it's happening, but I know the argument is this. Like, there's the argument, well, if you're a Calvinist, then why do you care?
Yeah.
If you're not, then you're not working hard enough, and you better get to work. And mine was, well, God does choose people. Mm-hmm. He does choose them. He chose every one of you.
That's right. Amen to that.
Now, if you reject him, that's on you.
That's right.
But he chose every single person.
That's right. And it's not your choice that he chose you.
Yeah, that's the hard part. Did you know your faith generates from him?
And that's right. So. And what you said that really spoke to me is that in Revelation it talks about the removal of our lives or our names from the book of life. That is the key to it. If we don't accept Christ, our names are removed. So it's something he chose us. So we have no choice in that matter.
You're already in the book of life.
That's right.
You make the choice to remove yourself from it.
Amen.
And that changes everything. And that's where all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, that special prayer really wasn't that special. Yeah. That walk down the aisle, that filling out of the card, the because I used to get it a lot. That, why aren't you doing altar calls? I get that all the time. Why aren't you doing altar calls? I was like, because the salvation doesn't happen at the altar; it happens in the heart.
That's right.
Like, that walk doesn't do anything for them. Like, other than that's a roadblock for them because now they feel, oh, wait, everyone's going to be looking at them. They're worried about that and not worrying about what's happening in that moment.
Oh, I made that walk many times.
You did, didn't you? And you know how many times you probably prayed, God, forgive me again and again and again,
Right.
every single night for your whole life, scared you're going to die and go to hell?
I had a youth pastor years ago when I was a kid, and I was in he was a great guy. Dan Ketchum was his name. He said when we were at the altar after service, and I was probably 16, 17, and he said we were talking about something that I was asking forgiveness for, and what he said, when you're climbing the ladder, it's like climbing a ladder, and you make a mistake and you know, you fall, you only fall one rung. You don't fall all the way to the bottom again.
Right.
Because God is there. He knows you're going to do that. And I thought, wow, I've never forgot that. So that when I do fall, and when I do know that the Lord's saying, hey, what about this? I say, Lord, I'm sorry. And I know I haven't gone all the way to the bottom. I just know that I got to keep going positively.
But you're a Nazarene now?
Well,
Because you sound like a grace pastor. You don't sound anything like a Nazarene pastor.
well, well, I was Nazarene for years, and then I was in the Methodist Church, United Methodist Church, for a few years, and then I was in Nazarene Church in Branson. We kind of were in for a while, but I was in Tulsa. I coached and taught high school and coached basketball and soccer in an independent Baptist school, Bob Jones and everything. But so I've had a lot of different emphasis in my life, and how God has brought me to this point.
Right. Well, that's I was reading somewhere, and it was that about pastors who they become so dogmatic in their young days that they have a hard time changing in their elder years because they're like, man, I've been preaching this my whole life. It was Pink. What was his name?
Pastor.
You know who I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
Wrote all the books.
Yes, I know.
He wrote a book on the end times.
Yes.
And when he was dying, someone was like, we really want to get that book. And he goes, I hope you can't ever find it. And they go, why? He goes, because I was wrong about everything.
Now you know, read it again.
Yeah. Now he's like, I was wrong about everything. I hope no one ever reads that, But he actually changed his mind as he grew in,
Yes.
And a lot of people get so dogmatic on what they believe. They're like, I can't change because I've been preaching this for my whole life, or seminary taught me this or told me this is what it is. And I have heard so many pastors say that when before 50, you are sold on an idea. But when you get in your later age, you start to see truths that you never saw in your younger age. And I think it's because you're getting closer. And as you get closer, you start to realize, I need more grace.
Mm-hmm. I need more grace in my, and you start regretting, the emphasis you put on certain things in life. I remember when I went to college, and it was a Bible college. The first time I remember reading some scripture, and we were studying it, and I realized, my church is wrong about this. The Bible, it wasn't any big deal, but it was something that the emphasis, I said, the Bible is teaching this in my church. So you have that point where you go against what you're taught. But I've also learned as I got older now, and getting old is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I was holding my back the other day, just kind of walking through the house. And my wife said, what happened to you? I said, I took a nap. It's just a whole different world than it used to be. Yeah. I used to dunk the ball. Now I can't even jump over a piece.
I know you did. I saw a picture of you in the yearbook.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that was you going up to dunk it. All right, yeah, go ahead.
But if you've ever seen the drama the guys from Oklahoma City did on the Chisel, if you ever see it, it's very good because it talks about how God shapes us. And sometimes, the older we get, for a while, the harder it is for him to do that because we've already been, as you said, we've already been taught. We think this, we think that. But I have found as I've gotten older, the older part of older, that I realize, my emphasis obviously was on sports. I played basketball and soccer through college, and then refereed basketball for 25 years. Played on pickup teams and softball, and everything I could. And so it was a big deal in my life. I followed Kansas City Chiefs for since the late '60s, and it was always a sad thing until all of a sudden the last few years. Now it's almost an embarrassment of riches. But uh, all of that meant so much to me, and not that I never worshipped it. I never thought it was over the Lord, but I realized, that there's nothing there.
Right.
That's just for my own, fun and light, and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying, it's like when I was in college and I ran and run lines. You run back and forth for all the time, and after I realized I counted all the times in junior high and high school, now 4 years in college, that I had done that. I thought, if I'd spent all these hours learning to play the guitar or something, it would be better for me in the long run.
Right. When you're older.
Yeah. Of course, I was leaning against the wall and hardly ever able to breathe at the time. But I was wrong in that, because it shaped me, and just being a part of a team was
It's God's plan to. Remember, He knows everything,
yeah.
and He knows what's right.
That's
And it is. It's hard. That's so hard. And I'm going to be honest. Like, I still grapple every day with the fact that God can use your stupidest mistakes for His good.
Amen to that.
And because then then you so here's it is. Okay, so I do this whole thing with this music, right?
Mhm.
And then there's this Yahoo online, goes online, he starts talking about me, saying things just simply aren't true. But it is what it is. Let him do that thing. And so I'm sitting here, and I'm like, man, I seem to always do this in life. I get to the very top of what I'm doing, and somehow I figure out a way to screw it up. So I have to start back over, right? And I'm like, do that over and over and over again. And so this time it's like, okay, this thing just pops. Everybody's like loving what I'm doing right now. And I'm like, we're going to do this really big show coming up. And I started getting nervous about it. I'm like, why am I nervous? Like, I'm doing what I know how to do. Like, I'm nervous because I think people are expecting me to fail, and I'm also nervous because I want to be accepted, right? I want people, I want that acceptance feeling. Like, so I got all these like anxieties. Well, then if it's Pastor Wade, Pastor Wade, he tells me, he goes, Ryan, I'll do it in the Wade voice. Ryan, yeah, have you not figured it out yet? It's okay if you screw up. Every time you do, God does something better. And I was like, you know what? I have no more stress. Like, that is so true. I've epically screwed up about as bad as you possibly can in life. And somehow God still uses me the next day.
Amen.
So, and then I just go back and again, you go through the Bible and you read, did you expect different? Like, because David did a lot. His son did a lot. All of the kings after that did a lot. Peter denied him 3 times.
Mhm.
Judas betrayed him. Paul disobeyed him. Did any of them do it right? Jesus, but I mean, did anybody else do it right? I don't think anyone. Even the prophets were jacked up. You know, why do I expect myself to be any better?
And if you do and you think you are, then that's when you've already fallen.
Yeah, when you start to think you're better than someone else, that's the problem. Yeah. What did you think about Judas?
Oh, it was great. I got it right away.
Song, not the man.
Yeah, he was great too. No,
Yeah.
no, it was great. I got it right away. I understood what you were saying, and I appreciated the way it was said, because people are going to listen and not like it negatively right off if they don't listen, and that happens a lot, especially with songs. People just don't listen to the words. Some people are um, singing words, and you go, do you know what that song really says? And they go, no. And then you tell them, and they go, oh, I'll never say that again.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with, if they hear a song and it has something a connotation that they don't want or they don't like, they'll go down that road and say, well, I don't like it. I mean, and they won't say that necessarily, but they won't go down that road. But if they really listen and understand what you're trying to say, I think it's a great song.
You got to get past the first verse. See, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like the first verse. This is what the trend I've heard. I've seen the comments. This guy is mad at the church. I'm like, no, you didn't get past the first verse. The first verse is me talking about a guy in church who does all the right things, and then on Monday is doing the opposite. And you know what happens is I think people feel conviction in the first verse, and they're like, I don't want to hear the rest of it.
Yeah.
When they don't realize that the rest of the song is the redemption of that.
Yeah. That's true.
And you find it in Jesus, and that we all have a little Judas.
Yeah.
That was the other thing. It's like on the cover of the single. You probably didn't see it if you were listening to it, 'cause it's small.
No,
But the cover of the single is my face, and it's half lit up and half of it's dark. And underneath it, you see this little mark on my head. And everyone's like, is that the mark of the beast? I was like, no, it was the mark of Cain.
Yeah.
And the thing is the mark of Cain means two things. I mean, people forget the second one. The first one, it is a mark of shame. But the second one was God's protection, even in that shame.
Yeah, that's true.
When Cain left, God said, I'm going to pray, no one can touch him. He's protected by me, and he has this mark to show it. We all have the mark.
Yeah.
And we all still have the grace of God that protects it.
Praise the Lord for that.
That was the point of the song. Like, well, people miss it. Hey, what do you do?
Yeah, well, that's going to happen, especially in our day. Everybody's looking for something to be negative about.
The hardest part of the song, and there was the one part that I almost took out, was how when I say he had dinner with him each day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people are like, what is he talking about? That just comes out of the blue, you know? Well, it's Jesus had dinner with Judas every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And like we were talking about, and so the only reason I'm saying this right now is because so many people ask us to just get out of the way. The idea of that line is this. When Jesus sat down and said, one of you are going to betray me, no one in the room knew who it was. Mm-hmm. That means Jesus loved Judas just as equal as every other disciple.
That's right.
Up to that point. And no one had a clue that it was Judas. His love was no different. Mm-hmm. That's how our love should be for one another.
Amen. Amen. I agree. And that's hard. That's a hard saying. Because it's hard for us to see that in our human minds. Right. To understand that. And you said, you know, Jesus' love for Judas didn't stop there either. No. His love for us doesn't stop because we do things. We are promised life with him eternally if we allow his forgiveness, or we, you know, it's just,
if we just don't reject his gift.
If we don't reject that, that name in the book of life. So.
I mean, gives it to you.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing for me to wrap my mind around when people are like anti-Christian, mm-hmm. because we're not asking you to do nothing. We're asking you not to reject the one who did everything.
That's right.
That's so easy. Yet people make it so hard. Oh, well, the church does a good job of that too. Like, right. You know, when you walk in and they got the 10 Commandments, the first thing you see when you walk in, you start to feel this judgment because you look at it and you go, I know I've done some of those. Guess what? We all have, right? Like, I think what we should do is when you walk in, initial by the commandments that you broke. So everybody knows we're all in the same boat. You know, like, just put your name by this. I would probably cover a few of them. There's a couple on there. Well, no, actually, no. I probably cover them all. Because, you know, if you just have hate for somebody, you've That's murdered right. them. You know, so.
And the thing about that is, if you saw everybody's, there's a video on their head that showed their biggest sin.
Yeah.
And if that affected how you love that person,
you're wrong. It's so hard. That's so hard for people to wrap their mind around.
It is hard. It's hard. Yeah.
It's hard. And it's even harder when you experience that kind of opposition in your life. It's the spiritual warfare. It's the dark side. It sounds like I'm in Star Wars. The dark side of the Force. You know, the evil of the world is going to press on you to hate someone for their sin. when you're supposed to do the opposite.
That's true.
You're supposed to love them where they are. And Jesus shows us that over and over and over. Like, when is there a time when Jesus, other than the Pharisees, is there a time where he judges?
Well,
Correct you. He'll tell you where you stand.
yeah, and he'll tell you what you need to do.
Yeah.
That if you are judged, there's got to be change. You can't just come and say, "This is who I am, and I'm not going to change. This is who you know."
Right. Well, that's a heart change. That God does that to you. You can't do it.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying people expect that.
Yeah.
Just tell about Jesus and how he loved people. Don't tell about all, or don't do all this. Don't say that. No heaven, no hell, no all. Jesus loved people. Yeah, and he told them they were headed to hell if they didn't. The woman at the well had 6 different partners in life, and she was living with a guy that wasn't even one of those 6. And
But here, check this out.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite parts of the Bible. He tells her that, right?
yes, he does.
But then after that, he doesn't bring it back up.
No, he doesn't.
And he ends up electing her, now check this out,
Yeah.
as the first person in all of the Bible to share that he is the Messiah.
Yes, you're right.
To that point, he told everybody to say nothing. He didn't ask Peter.
That's right.
He asked a woman Samaritan
Who had been married.
who had been married 7 times. You're the one that's going to be my coming out party.
But he did say, "Go and sin no more."
He did.
There was a change.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
and it's right. And that we understand.
But we know that she didn't go and sin no more.
Yeah.
We know that. No one can go without sinning no more.
But if he did all that for her, surely.
Yeah. Okay, Peter denied him 3 times after he healed his mother-in-law. Walked on. I mean, come on now. Like Peter knew who he was, but in fear denied him 3 times. That should show us that we're willing. We are just. I don't ever want to put myself on a pedestal next to Peter. I'll tell you that.
No, you are right.
That's fun. It's fun. Sorry. I am that guy. Like I always see the other side of the coin.
Nothing wrong with that.
But so go back to the music. What is a song? Okay, let's go with first. What is a song that you love to sing that wasn't a gospel song, just a song that you just love to sing?
There's a lot of those. Just because I grew up listening to Roger Miller and Ed Ames.
Roger Miller, he's a funny one, right?
Yeah, that's right. In the summertime, stuff like that.
What was his,
I put some of those on my CDs. And Ed Ames was one of my favorite. And he had a show in Branson later. And so I got to know him. He was one of my idols from, My Cup Runneth Over with Love was one of his biggest hits. But he was the Indian in Daniel Boone on TV. If you ever, Mingo was his name on there. So, and he told me a lot of funny stories. But in fact, if you go to Johnny Carson on YouTube and find the funniest thing ever happened on Johnny Carson, it's the number 1 there.
Really?
And it's when Ed Ames as Mingo is there, and he's got a tomahawk. And in the show, he throws a tomahawk and it hits a tree, and the tree goes over like that. It's a big deal. So he had to learn to throw the tomahawk, and so he threw it, and there was a chalk drawing of a man. It was like this, and he throws it, and it hits him right in the crotch. Johnny Carson had a ball with that. Ed Ames wanted to go backstage to get out of the way. Johnny grabs him by the arm. He says, "You're not even now." Anyway, it's one of the longest laughs on Johnny Carson. Well, Ed Ames told me that they were so afraid that tomahawk would go into the audience or something. They just were afraid of that, and so they put extra tape on, made it bigger. The handle hit bigger and everything, so it threw him off. And he didn't know they did it. They just did it without thinking. You know how people are. Yeah. They want to be careful and do this, so it won't go on anyway. That's what happened. So his aim was off. It threw the tomahawk off.
So he didn't even do it on purpose.
No. He was so embarrassed. But just talking about it to him after seeing it when I was a kid and all that, I loved it. Anyway, I love that kind of music. Uh, all of Roger Miller's, it's King of the Road. He, Roger Miller wrote that song. I remember when I was a kid, I went to the Snake River Stampede in Nampa, Idaho, which is a big rodeo. And Roger Miller was singing there, and I fell in love with this entertainer. I said, "Man, I love this guy." I was in high school, and I wanted to get a record. My mom wouldn't spring for a record, but she gave me 50 cents for a picture. I took it up, and he signed it. I still have that one today. And
I'm looking something up while you're talking about Roger.
and he said, now he told the story, and so did, back. I don't want to go through this whole thing, but there was a DJ, Marty Martin was a DJ in Nampa, Idaho at KGEM radio station. He later became known as an entertainer. Um, I'll get it in a minute. He became an entertainer, had his own show, and Boxcar Willie was his name. Anyway, he was in that same hotel where Roger was that night after one of his the Snake River Stampede, and they went through, and coming back from the Stampede, a section of a town where they had all kinds of trailers and built trailers and all kinds of, I've been through there many times, years and years ago. Anyway, he saw the sign that said trailer for sale or rent, and he started thinking about that. And so in the middle of the night, he is through with this song, trailer for sale, King of the Road. He wrote the song right there, and he was all excited about it, Roger. So he goes over and he knows that Marty Martin or Boxcar Willie's in another room that night. He was meeting with the songwriter from Nashville, and they'd gotten into the wee hours of the morning. He said, "Take that out of the bed, and we'll go on in the morning." So they did, and they get this knock on the door, and Boxcar goes over there, and there's Roger Miller in his underwear and his guitar, and he says, "Hey, I got a number one hit song." And he starts singing "Trailer for Sale," and Boxcar said, much to my chagrin, I said, "That's no hit song. Go back to bed," and slammed the door in his face. But
and that's where King of the Road came from.
That's where King of the Road came from. Now, I will say, I will say, now, Boxcar says that it's that same story that Roger said, and if you go to the internet, you'll find 3 or 4 different stories about where he got King of the Road from. And Boxcar said he's just that way. He'll tell you. So I can't say 100% sure. I know that I got 2 sources that said it. So, yeah. but anyway, those kind of songs, I love King of the Road, and I love singing it, and I love telling stories like that from the stage.
Yeah, he had a lot. He had "Dang Me."
Yeah,
was a good one.
Better get a rope and hang me.
Yeah.
Hang from the highest tree, woman, would you weep for me? All that stuff.
And chug-a-lug,
chug-a-lug, makes you want to hide-ho.
Yeah, those were great. Like he is, and he died young, didn't he?
Yes, he did. 50 something. He with cancer.
Yeah, because he was just kind of getting going. Back in the day, that's how it was. Like country music today is different. You got to be 20, and you got to have the face to sell the Chevy truck. Back then, you had to be 60 to live life to write a good song.
Sometimes that's true. That's true. But I think one of my favorite songs, if you want to know my favorite song, one of my favorite songs I put on CD was a Roger Miller song, and it was the last word in "Lonesome Is Me." I don't know if you've ever heard it.
No.
But the word "lonesome," M-E, is at the end. So that's a play on words. The last word in "Lonesome is me." Okay. And it's a great song, and I love singing it. It was perfect for my range, and it's probably my favorite song.
Wow, I'm going to have to listen to that when you leave. Because I went through a Roger Miller phase for almost 6 months. That's all I was playing on the truck. Yeah. It's weird because most people, when I talk about it, they're like, you were like, "Oh, he's one of my favorite." I'm like, "Hey, that's kind of fun." He was even in the Robin Hood cartoon.
Yeah. He wrote all that.
Yeah.
That's his last thing he wrote. Last thing he did was that whole, it was actually a movie with Robin Hood, and he wrote all the parts and the music for it.
Wow. Yeah, it was a good one, too.
Before he died. Yeah, he was able to get it done.
What about gospel song? Any gospel songs you just...
Oh, yeah. I mean, people in my church laugh because I say, well, this is one of my favorite songs. I say that about everything. Not everything, but...
this is one of my favorite verses. Yeah. This is one of my favorite chapters.
But I mean, recently, I Speak Jesus is one that's really, really can't hardly listen to it because if you lived a long time, you know how true those words are. And I appreciate that. I love the old hymns too. I mean, I was once a sinner, but I came. Remember that one? Yeah. A new name and glory. I loved that when I was a kid. Still love it today. It chills my bones when I hear it. But so many good words. I think uh, I have decided to follow Jesus. Just the simpleness of it. Mm. Yeah. Got some really good words, and it's just a simple little song. The world behind me, the cross.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about a lot of grace. So I'm gonna give you a lot of grace, and allow you to share a story about my mom.
Oh,
We'll close. See if my mom made it this far into the podcast. Come on, you got anything for me?
Well, I don't want to get her or me in trouble, but she she was just a lot of fun.
Oh my goodness, that's such a cop out.
It is.
She's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I get. Oh man.
Okay,
Right.
I'll say this.
Right.
There was that one time, and that's all I'm going to say.
Oh, okay. Well, and your wife is sitting right here, so guys, don't jump to conclusions.
And I don't mean that in a bad way.
I know. Okay. She'll know what you're talking about. Yeah. Wow.
She's a sweet lady. And I loved her accent. I came from Idaho. We didn't have any accents. So I thought she had a real Southern accent when I got to Kansas. And then I found out later after I'd been there and been other places, she just had a little bit of an accent.
Yeah. Go down to Louisiana a little bit. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Hey,
you got any closing words you'd like to share? Or you?
Oh, just all of those things that you're wondering about in your life. God's most important. You can let go of those things. You don't need. There's so much excess baggage. The concerns we have about what happened in the past, and our worries about what is going on in our life right now, and all that, and our concerns for the future and what's going to happen. All that is worthless. It's nothing, the Bible says, and you just give it to Him because He already knows, and He's there to walk you through it.
Thank you so much.
Sure. God bless you.
Yeah, it was a great time.
Praying for you.